done by Inansh and Shebnem, who are both proud Agile people coaches and part of our global network. The last book that we wrote is called The Agile People Principles, Your Call to Action for the Future of Work. And this is a co-creation project between me and 35 Agile people from around the world who have each written one chapter about one of the Agile People Principles. I want to start by looking a little bit at the problems with traditional leadership and traditional ways of working with HR. The problem is that we believe that we can control reality and make a perfect plan, but reality looks different, it turns out. So the problem here is that the world is not predictable anymore, and we need feedback regularly from reality to make the right choices along the way. So instead of making a perfect plan that we already know before it starts will not happen, you could say that in Agile, you accept reality as it is and you adapt to it. The problem, the next one I want to bring up, that we are focusing on shareholder value when we should be focusing on the customer value and the employee satisfaction first. Happy employees serve customers, and happy customers will lay the foundation for profitable organizations that can deliver value to the shareholders. But this is a consequence of the value creation happening between employees and customers. So we need profit to survive as a company, but that's not the reason why we run the company. The reason is to create value for some customer. And this has been expressed very beautifully, I think, by Frederic Laloux in the book Reinventing Organizations. Profit is like the air we breathe. We need air to live, but we don't live to breathe. And for HR, customers are managers and employees. Another problem that we have is that managers are feeling a lack of psychological safety in agile transformation programs. What happens to me and my role when we go agile? I have seen that in some companies they remove management when people seem to be able to lead themselves instead of being managed. But what we instead want is for them to become servant leaders. So they need to shift their mindset and see their role from a different perspective as servant leaders first. So it's more actually to create conditions in the organizational system than it is to control the same system. A bad system will beat a good person every time. So even if we have a lot of high performers in organizations, they will not be able to perform if the system is not supporting them. And the other way around is also true. If we have weak performers, they will probably be able to perform pretty well in a good system with structures that support them instead of limit them. I want to talk about the budget problems as well. The budget process is a very time-consuming thing. Assumptions that we do in the budget process are very quickly outdated, and it stimulates unethical behaviors like competition and going behind each other's backs to get politically correct ways of moving up in the organization, maybe stabbing other people on the way. It creates illusions of control, and decisions are made too early and often too high in the organization. It guarantees also that we have planned costs, but not that we have the planned revenues. And it can prevent value-adding activities that we could have done instead if we didn't have a fixed annual budget laid down the coming year. And we have all seen what things like the coronavirus can do to a perfect budget plan for 2020. Another problem is employee engagement. The vast majority of our workplaces are not great places to work, very far from it. 69 to 94% of employees are either not engaged or actively disengaged at work. So, what should we then do about all these problems? People ask me all the time, and I actually have some ideas. And one of the ideas has to do with the new role that leaders and HR need to take for the future of work. The Agile People Coach is a new role that more and more people discover. We created this new role because we believe it will be crucial for HR and leaders to change their role fundamentally to support their organizations and the people to be able to increase agility in all corners of the company. The Agile People Coach is a role where you use many competencies and become more T-shaped depending on where you come from, if you come from HR or leadership or an Agile coach. So the three roles at the top are where you come from, and then we have the four usual roles that an Agile coach usually takes in an organization. It's the trainer, mentor, coach, and facilitator role. But we added also three more roles: the guide, the navigator, and the reflective observer. And this last role is especially important, we believe, that you can move out of the situation or the system, stand outside, look in, and understand, when I step into the system again, in which role can I make the most use of myself. The thing is here that an Agile People Coach needs to have deep people skills, needs to know something about psychology, about sociology, about relationships, and how to work with people rather than how to work with processes and tools. And in the Agile Manifesto, we say that individuals and interactions are more important than processes and tools. That's why the focus here is on people for HR and leaders. So choosing role, depending on the needs of your people, you take different roles to support them. And this is a quite senior roles, and it takes time to master all of them. But you better start working now to become a fantastic servant for your organization, but because that is what is needed for the future. What about the agile HR role? How does HR change when we move to increase business agility? Well, instead of the traditional focus on control and alignment, agile HR and management needs to focus on speed, customers, adaptability, innovation, and creating a learning organization where people work across boundaries and together create value. And the heavy focus here is on value creation for different kinds of customers. Why do I think that HR should be leading the change? Well, I believe that HR has been sitting in the back seat for too long. And it's time to step up and show what HR can do for the organization, because it's all about the people and the system in which the people live and work. If we can give the right conditions to people, they will take care of the rest. We don't need to do more things. We need to learn how to stop hindering people from giving their best effort to the company by providing the wrong structures. HR has the power to decide on many of these structures that can support people to perform or make it more difficult to contribute in creative, innovative manners, because creativity and innovation is what we need the most when the world is complex and changing exponentially. HR control, change management, leadership development programs, people development, talent acquisition, performance management, and they provide structures for the organization based on real and imagined laws of how we have to work. And if HR keeps holding on to the old ways of working and doing things, we don't have the possibility to change in any part of the company, because these structures permeate the whole organizations. This is where HR can support or hinder the change towards a more agile organization. And that's why HR needs to go first. What we need to stop doing here is to put people in boxes and put labels on them. I say job descriptions are boxes for standing on, not living in. So we need T-shaped people with deep specialist areas and broad general skills. This is to span boundaries on individual levels. And in Agile, we talk a lot about T-shaped competencies, specialized generalists or generalized specialists with both depth and breadth. And this creates a lot of flexibility for organizations, both for the individual, which can then broaden or deepen their competence, for the team, it creates an increased flexibility, and for the whole organization. What is the difference between the HR professional and the agile people coach, and how can a person move from being an HR person to become an agile people coach? Well, instead of just having extensive HR process competence, they need also to understand complex systems and systems theory. And instead of just deep skills in some HR specialist area, they need deeper general skills, people skills like psychology, sociology, relationships, etc. Instead of no formal power to lead transformations, we have more trust and influence to transform as an agile people coach. Instead of being stuck in certain roles, we have the flexibility to wear different hats depending on the need of our organizations. Instead of one size fits all training and one size fits all solutions and programs, solutions are tailored towards unique needs because we all have different needs and need different things. Instead of delivering and developing solutions to the business, we develop solutions together with the business. We invite the business to take part in our HR work. Instead of mainly supporting managers, we understand that we need to support all the people in the organization and make it possible for them to perform and be happy. Instead of a parental view, we trust employees. We know they are adults, and we focus on collective and systems performance instead of individual performance. Instead of expecting answers, we also work on our listening and observing skills. And instead of checking compliance with processes, we enable improvement and continuous learning towards common targets. Instead of back office workers, we move on and we move out in the organization. We walk the flow, go to Gemba, we call it in Lean. What about agile leadership then? Well, instead of managing performance, telling people exactly what to do when people might have better ideas, we enable performance. So we become, as CEOs, we become the chief enabling officers instead of the chief executive officer. Here, I think the metaphor with the gardener is really powerful and strong. Here we see the company as a garden, and there is a purpose with a garden. It could be to be as beautiful as possible or deliver fruits and vegetables, for example. But regardless of that, the garden needs to be taken care of to reach its purpose. We need to take care of the plants. Some like to grow in the shadow, some need more sunshine, and we need to remove the weeds. Some like to grow with other plants of diverse kinds to develop faster and become beautiful together, and some need a lot of space. So the agile leader is the gardener who takes care of the plants, trying to fulfill the purpose of the garden, not forgetting about every single plant's needs. And it's useless to scream to a flower to grow faster, quicker, better. We can only create the conditions in the garden so that the plants want to grow by their own intrinsic strength and power and motivation. So we can only change organizations by removing limiting structures together. We need to break the boundaries between IT, finance, management, and HR and start discussing together how we can improve and learn in a common direction. We cannot do it alone. We need everybody on this journey to create better organizations. And when we work with Agile, we don't follow recipes. There are no recipes or best solutions that always work. But we know that when we stick to certain principles, it tends to work well. So best practice is actually always past practice. And only the mediocre companies follow best practice today. You will never be better than competition if you use best practice. Having said that, I'm going to give you a very simple recipe for changing your organization. Start by remove the limiting structures. They mainly come from finance and HR. Then we increase supporting structures for all employees to make it possible to behave according to the agile mindset. And then we will start to show the new behaviors that come from learning new ways of acting and learning. And then we repeat from one, because these structures have a tendency to creep back on us. We in Agile People put together a manifesto to support you to understand how the move needs to look like. We came together during 4 intensive days in my summer house on the west coast of Sweden. And this is the result. And this is our gift to you. And with this, I'm just going to give a last shout out to you. Start today, follow the principles, and start your personal and organizational learning journey towards greater people and business agility. The sooner you start, the sooner you will reap the benefits from happy performing people working together towards a common vision. We invite you to join the Agile People community, participate in an Agile People training online, or become an Agile People coach facilitator yourself. Our next training starts on January 11, and you can read more on agilepeople.com. And with that, I would like to thank you so much for listening. And I'm leaving back the word to our host here. Let's see. Let's stop screen
Thank
share.
you, Pia Maria. It was a pleasure to listen to you, and we really appreciate your gift with us. And we will look forward to connecting with Agile People community. And thank you so much. And now our next speaker, Kayhan Krippendorf, Outthinkers Strategy Network.
Hi, it's great to be here, and thanks for having me. And it's a thrill to be following Anna. I've gotten the opportunity now to teach for her at NYU, and truly believe in her approach that is grounded in so many years of experience in HR and how the evolution of how people organize to achieve great things together inside of organizations is going to evolve. And I'm going to share my take on that as well. My background is primarily strategy and innovation. I organize a strategy network, a peer group of chief strategy officers of billion-dollar plus businesses from places like Microsoft and IBM and L'Oreal, across lots of different sectors and increasingly globally. And so I get a chance to think with them about what are the strategic questions and the emerging strategic issues that are impacting people and organizations. And about 5 years ago, I began a research project based off of what I was hearing. And I just want to share some insights from that and suggest 7 things that you can do to open up your organization and to become a more agile organization, borrowing the words from Anna here. So I'm going to present my screen, I think. Great. All right. Hopefully you can see my screen, and if not, someone will let me know. So I want to talk about driving innovation from within. This will be a very short presentation here. But when we think about who the innovators are in society, if we look at a list of most innovative people, most innovative business leaders, these are the names that come up repeatedly. Now, as you look at these pictures, I'd like you to notice a few things about them. When we look at Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and Michael Dell, and then kind of the next generation, Musk and Zuckerberg, the founders of Airbnb, when we look at them, what pops up as a kind of surprisingly consistent, certainly, is that they're all white men, which is absolutely an issue that we need to address. The other thing that is striking is the commonality of their story. All of them got a big idea sometime in college. Some of them left college early to pursue that idea. Some people continued through college. They're all from in the United States, with the exception of Musk, who then did move to the United States, and I went to school with him actually in college. They all then leave where they're studying and they make a journey across the country to the mecca of innovation in the United States, which is Silicon Valley. And then they step into a cave with a small team. That cave is usually a garage. And they have their hipster, their hacker, and their hustler, and they build something that they then release onto the market that then disrupts the old, stale, stagnant enterprises, the incumbents. Now, the fact that their stories are so similar should make us question whether the story actually is true. And I propose to you that we tell this story not because it is the primary driver of innovation in society, but rather because it is a fun story to tell. It's a sticky story. If you sell this story, you'll sell more books. You'll sell more magazines. You'll get more hits on your website because it evokes a hero mythology that attracts people. But if we look at the facts, what we'll see is that actually this is not the story. That actually employees, not entrepreneurs, are the primary drivers of innovation in society. So I looked at the 30 most transformative innovations over the last 3 decades. This is a list judged by a panel of professors from Wharton Business School based off of thousands of submissions, and they debated what are the really big transformative innovations. And these are the big ones. This is like the internet, like email, like MRIs and DNA sequencing. And I looked at who conceived of the idea, who developed the idea, excuse me, and who scaled the idea. What I found is that 70% of these innovations were conceived of not by entrepreneurs, but by employees. Now sit with that for a moment. Not only is the story of this hero entrepreneur false, it also tells employees that they're not meant to be the innovators. And what's the consequence of that? Well, the consequence of that is that if employees stop viewing themselves as the primary innovators, they will stop trying to innovate, and the world will be robbed by the next innovations that are going to shape society. Imagine a world in which you do not have a mobile phone to reach for in the morning. If you did have that, you wouldn't be able to connect it to the internet. If you did somehow do that, you wouldn't be able to send an email. If you got sick, you couldn't get an MRI. You couldn't get a stent. We would live in a radically poorer world if it were not for employees who innovate. So what I did is I looked at what are the barriers that employees cite when they say that they can't innovate. Over those 5 years, this is pulling from my most recent book, Driving Innovation from Within. I interviewed over 150 internal employee entrepreneurs. I asked each of them, what do you see as the primary barrier? And so this is what I'm going to share with you, the 7 barriers. So the first barrier is intent, which is that many employees have stopped trying to innovate. So if we want to activate greater innovation from within, the first thing we do is light up that intent and show people why they are the innovators. And there are 3 primary barriers that stop people from seeing themselves as innovators. The next step is once we've activated them, we need to tell them where they should be innovating. They need to understand the need that the company has. And most employees don't understand that need because they don't understand our strategy because our strategies are too complex. Then we need to enable them to develop portfolios of options. Instead of getting stuck on just one option, we need to get them in the habit of being able to generate lots and lots of potential options, ideas for how to solve that need, if you will. And then we need to enable them to overcome what I call value blockers. You can think of this as business model conflict. They will see that there's a natural way to sell the idea in the marketplace, to operationalize it, to staff it, to brand it, to price it. Those are all business model choices. And when those business model choices are inconsistent with your current way of staffing or selling or pricing or branding, that creates a value blocker. But it's really easy actually to step back and redesign that idea to avoid those value blockers. So we need to enable them to do effective business model design. And the next barrier that employees complain about is this idea of acting. And basically what it says is that we have evolved as established organizations to adopt a prove, plan, execute model. Prove to me the idea will work, develop a business plan, and I'll give you the money to execute that business plan. But actually with innovations, what we need is a different model. We need a act, learn, build model. I like to say we need to, instead of prove it to do it, we need to do it to prove it. So we have to allow for agile experimentation. The next barrier is team. After they've designed that agile experimentation, they need to put together a team. And the team that they need doesn't all report to the same person. They need someone from marketing. They need someone from finance. They need someone from operations. And unless they have the support of the CEO, there's no authority that can tell all these people to work on the idea. So we need to enable that kind of teaming. And then finally, environment. They need to be good at understanding and managing the organizational environment. Effective internal innovators, they view the political challenge as part of the problem-solving process. And so what we want to do is we want to enable people not only to effectively navigate the politics, but actually love the politics and see that as part of the human side of the designing the innovation. So I named these so that they spell innovate, INOVATE, simply so that your employees will be able to more easily remember these barriers and know when you are in one step what is coming next, and recognize that the frustration that you're facing is not an indication that something's wrong. It's an indication that you are on the path of innovation. So I want to just talk a little bit about environment, because I know that many of you here are leaders and organizers and people who structure your organizations. And what I'd looked at was every research study I could find that talks about what the drivers are of higher levels of internal innovation. And I won't go into these each, but there's a lot of things that we think are a problem that aren't a problem. There are a lot of levers that are effective that we don't talk about as being effective. I want to just point out a couple. So we have talent. What kind of talent do you need? What kind of structure do you need? What kind of culture do you need? And what kind of leadership do you need? And if we look at structure, there's really just 4 things that you need to do as a leader. Number one is provide resources, which is time and money, reward innovation, allow for risk-taking, and allow for organizational freedom, allow for people to team up across silos. Now, if we look at these 7 barriers, what we're going to see is the contours of a new organization. I think Anna referred to it as the agile organization, which I think is exactly appropriate, because right now our organizational paradigms don't allow for the agility we need. They're designed as centrally planned economies, right? Where a central authority makes all the decisions of who's going to work where money goes, where jobs go, right? And we know that central planning does not work, especially in fast-paced environments, because it puts us in a situation where the pace of change outside exceeds our ability to change inside. And so the traditional hierarchical model is falling away. And what is emerging is something that I think is super exciting. If we talk about intent, people are going to stop looking at employees as employees, but instead as entrepreneurs. If we talk about need, we're going to evolve from complex strategies that nobody understands into simple statements of purpose. If we talk about options, ideas aren't going to come from boardrooms. They're going to come from hallways. They are coming from hallways. Value blockers. You're not going to have one business model. You're going to have an ecosystem of different business models. ACT, we're going to stop asking people for business plans and instead allow them to experiment. Team, we're going to evolve from hierarchies and silos into agile teams. And environment, ultimately, the organization evolves from central planning to becoming a platform where every employee is empowered to see opportunities and seize the resources to pursue those opportunities. So those are the 7 things that we really want to think about. This is my contact information. If you want to reach me via Twitter, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, my website. I really am on a mission to enable people who see the possibility of freeing employees to innovate to do so. So if there's anything that I can provide to enable you to bring this kind of approach into your organization, I'd love to hear from you.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. I appreciate your sharing.
Thank you. Thank
See
you.
you. Bye-bye.
Our next speaker is Enrique Rubio, who is leading one of the most agile communities in the world, Hacking HR, and Enrique is going to talk about creating the best HR ever.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. I hope you can all hear me well. My name is Enrique Rubio, and I am the founder of a global learning community of HR leaders, HR practitioners called Hacking HR. I invite you all to either follow me on LinkedIn or follow the Hacking HR community on LinkedIn. We are doing a lot of things. Alper, of course, is one of our speakers in all our events. So very happy that we are inviting each other to share ideas, insights, and experiences with our corresponding network. So I am really happy to be here and just wanted to share with you over the next few minutes some ideas about what the future of HR could be looking like and the things that we need to do in order to be ready for all that's coming on our way. So let me begin by saying this. To create or creating the best HR ever, the best HR that has ever existed. To me, for us in HR, that implies that we need to become the trailblazers that are leading people and organizations successfully and effectively into this new reality of work. We need to become the leaders that help our organizations, our business leaders, our people transition through these times of chaos, difficulty, not just because of coronavirus, by the way, but because of the implications of technology, climate change, demographic shift, remote work, and all the things that are happening in life and in work. If we are to create that best HR that has ever existed, we need to become that trailblazer. And to me, there are several things that we need to do in order to become that trailblazer. But perhaps the most important and the overall action that we need to take will happen up here. And let me explain what that means. We're going to have to change the way we think about our role in HR. We are not really HR leaders. We are not really HR professionals. Let me say that again. We are not really HR leaders or HR professionals. We are, before anything, we are business leaders who happen to work in the HR space. I want to say that again. We are business leaders who happen to work in the HR space. Whenever we change our mindsets and we have the opportunity to think as business leaders that happen to work in the HR space, our thinking process, the way we analyze information, the way we design, implement, create processes, and the way we do the things that we do in HR will completely change. Because now we're not just thinking about the four walls, the little cocoon, the little comfortable area where HR has operated for a long period of time. When we think as business leaders who happen to work in the HR space, one of the most important realizations that we're going to come up with is that to be successful in this role, we are going to have to understand very well what our organization is about, what our business is about, the metrics of success of our organization, and we are going to have to connect those dots with the work that we would have traditionally done in the HR space. Let me give you one example of what I'm saying. If you understand the patterns of migration now because of COVID-19, here in the United States where I live, San Francisco, which is perhaps one of the innovation capitals of the world, a lot of people have been migrating out of the city of San Francisco because, well, now they can work remotely. Most of the work done in the city of San Francisco is technology work, service work that can be done remotely. And because it is such an expensive city, people have made the determination that it's better for them to live somewhere else and continue to do the work that they were doing before. Now, if you work in the HR space and all you do is think as an HR leader or as an HR professional, you may miss how important these patterns of migration are for the work that your organization is going to be doing. But now, if you are a business leader who happen to work in the HR space, then your thinking process will be completely different because you will want to step out of your area of comfort, of your cocoon in HR, and you may want to understand those patterns of migration, the implications of the real estate in the city of San Francisco, the implications of remote work in the city of San Francisco, and then you are going to be able to connect those dots with your recruitment strategies, with your talent attraction and your talent retention strategies, and with your entire employee cycle strategies. So all I'm saying here is that for us to be able to create that best HR that has ever existed, for us to be able to become the trailblazer, leading people, leading organizations, leading leaders into the future of work successfully and effectively, we must think as business leaders who happen to work in the HR space. So that will become the main takeaway of my few minutes with you today. But let me break that down and talk to you about 4 things that I think you should be paying attention to over the next few months and few years, of course. There are 4 elements that I call as part of the what I call the new value proposition for HR. These 4 elements are the following, and I'm going to be explaining a little bit about each of them. It is, number 1, putting people first, aligning with the business, becoming more agile and innovative, and leveraging on technology. So let me explain what each of these elements mean. To create that best HR that has ever existed, to become a trailblazer, we need to put people first. And what that means is we cannot be pro-business. We cannot be great business leaders if at the same time we are not great people leaders. We cannot be pro-business if we are not pro-people. But at the same time, and I'm going to connect this to the second element, we cannot be pro-people if we are not pro-business. What we are doing in the work of HR is ensuring the success, the profitability, the impact, the sustainability of the organization that we work for. To be able to do that, we are operating in the people space. We need to make sure that we put our people in the center of all the work and all the attention of everything that we're doing in the HR space. What that means very often is that we're going to have to revisit some of the processes and the systems and the policies that we have in place in the HR space to make sure that everything that we're doing is truly putting people first and adding value to the work that we're doing. Just think about it in these terms. If our processes are preventing people from reaching their potential at work, from bringing their best self to work, from being creative, curious, from using their imagination, from being innovative, then those systems or policies or whatever we have in place in the world of HR, they are not conducive to putting people first and therefore putting the organization first. So to create that best HR that has ever existed, or that we can ever create, the first element is that we must put people first. The second element is aligning with the business. And this is very simple. And I want to ask you actually this question, and you won't be able to respond. I won't be able to see your responses, but I am hoping that you can respond this question to yourself. How many of you really think that you know what the metrics of success of your organization are? How many of you really think that you know the financial metrics of success, the goals of your organization, the outcomes that your organization is looking for? If you are like most of the people that I speak with in the HR space, probably no more than 5% of you would have said, yes, I know very well what this is all about. Most people in the HR space are sometimes very disconnected from what the organization and the business is supposed to be doing. So to create that best organization, that best HR that has ever existed, to become a trailblazer, leading people and organizations into the future of work, to be a business leader who happen to work in the world of HR, one of the 4 elements is we have to align all we do with the business. And this should be a no-brainer, but unfortunately, it is a very big brainer when we go to the reality of the workplace. Very often, you see the company or the organization going in one direction and the HR systems and the practices and the policies going in a different direction. So a challenge for you going forward is to truly understand what your business is all about. And you may want to begin by having conversations with people that work in the finance space. You may want to begin by understanding what the financial metrics of success of your organization are. You need to truly understand and recite, without even looking at it, the P&L of your organization, because only then will you be able to connect what you do in the HR space with the goals of the organization. And I say it in a very simple way. If you're not adding value, you are adding waste. I don't see middle ground in here. If you are truly aligned to your organization, you should be able to revisit your HR processes, your HR systems, your policies, and you should be able to say, out of the 20 steps that we have to follow in this process, there are only 10 that truly add value. The other 10 are not aligned with anything. They are not necessary, so they are waste. You should get rid of them. So second element to create that best HR that has ever existed is to truly align with the organization. The third element is to become more agile and innovative. If any of you design any process or system before the pandemic, let's say before January of this year, you created an amazing process and you are congratulating yourself for how amazing the process that you design is. If you apply that same process to the pandemic, it may not work at all, because the pandemic has changed basically everything that we know about life and that we do at work. So one of the most important elements for HR is not to get complacent with the things that we are creating or too emotionally attached to those things. You have to be able to let things go that are not working anymore. And this is true, especially now when the world is so chaotic and it's moving so extremely fast today. There are so many things going on that are outside of our control. But what's within our control is our capacity to adapt to all these things that are happening. So my message to you is the following. When we're talking about creating a more agile and innovative HR, my message to you is, do not get emotionally attached to the things that you are creating. Instead, do the following. Make sure that you are truly understanding, embracing, and honing all of the skills that you need to develop the processes. Because this is what's going to happen. If you develop a process through design thinking, and if that process is not relevant anymore, you can change it. But what's going to happen is that the skills and the capabilities that you learn with design thinking will help you do and create another process that is more adapted to the circumstances that you are going through. So my message to you is do not fall in love with the actual things that you are creating. Instead, fall in love with the skills and capabilities that you're learning throughout the process and those skills are going to be very significant and powerful for you to be able to create the new processes and continue to change and iterate and experiment and be agile and innovative. And the fourth element of this value proposition of HR for us to become that trailblazer that leads people and organizations to the future of work, that is leveraging on technology. For us to be able to effectively leverage on technology, we have to understand that the part of the work that we're going to be doing going forward, especially the more administrative, transactional kind of work, will be done by technology. You may say, well, Enrique, you know what? The technology may be impacting my work, but right now it's too expensive. We won't be able to do that in my company. I am telling you, get ready for technology to impact every single thing that your organization and that you yourself are doing in the world of HR. Whether it is expensive today, it may not be expensive in 5 years, in 3 years, in 1 year from now. So make sure that you are understanding the world and the implications of technology in the work that you're doing. So to quickly summarize these 4 elements, I began by saying that we can create, and I feel, and I not only feel, I am certain that we have the potential to create the best HR ever. But we're not there yet. There's a lot of work that we got to do in order to be able to create and actually have that best HR ever. To be able to get there, we need to think of ourselves as the trailblazers, as leaders. And when we think of ourselves as business leaders, as trailblazers, our entire thinking process will be completely different. Yes, we work in HR. Yes, you love working with people. Yes, you love serving others. That's all fantastic. And I love doing all of those things. But when you think as a business leader who happen to work in the HR space, your thinking process, your decision-making, and the actual things that you are creating will completely change. So you got to think as a business leader who happen to work in the HR space. The 4 elements to keep in mind to be able to do that are, number 1, putting people in the center of all you do, your customers, both external and internal customers. Number 2, aligning all you do with the metrics of success of your organization. Number 3, becoming more agile and innovative, being able to experiment, being able to be curious, to create new things and to adapt with the changing times. And number 4, it is leveraging on technology to make your processes more effective, more efficient, more transparent, faster, cheaper, and help you enhance the work that you're doing in your HR space. So I hope you embrace all of these ideas. They are not easy to implement, but once again, like I said at the beginning of my talk, they all start in the closest place that you have to you, which is up here, changing the way you think about your role in HR. Everybody, thank you so much for listening to my talk. I hope we connect on either LinkedIn, just follow me on LinkedIn, or follow the Hacking HR LinkedIn page. I invite you to join our 2021 Global Online Conference, and Alper and his team. Of course, Alper is one of the most wonderful human beings that I've ever known. So Alper, thank you so much for inviting me.
John, Enrique, before John, thank you so much coming with us. I think we are looking forward to the summit in March with the Hacking HR community. And thank you so much for the inspiration. And we will be in touch between now and March.
Absolutely. Thank you, my friend. And please, everybody stay safe, well, and have a wonderful holiday season. Thank you.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
And so our next speaker is John Kramer. John is going to speak about a topic that we have actually experienced and practiced today, improvisability. So how do we improvise in the agile times? John Kramer.
Hello, hello, hello. It's wonderful to be here today, and we are going to spend 15 minutes in a very special place, and this is a place where I spend a lot of my time. I am an improviser, and in a performance time, I get onto a stage with my colleagues and we invent a performance. We have no script, no props, no safety net. Everything happens in the moment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to invite you to join me in a very special place, and I'm going to give you a technique, one technique that we use in order to be agile and innovative and creative in that space. Enrique's point number 3, I loved Enrique's presentation, and point number 3, he was so excited when he talked about being innovative and flexible. And if you had a plan before the pandemic and you had a system before the pandemic, maybe it's time to make another plan. So let me show you my high-tech diagram. This is you here. Here is you. And this line represents a plan. We are all human and we succeed by making plans. You made a plan to be here today at the summit. So there is you and there is your plan. It's a straight line. Now, Alpa just talked about the need to improvise. So they have a plan for the summit and then something else. There's a different arrow. And I'm going to ask you to put into chat, what do you think that different arrow represents? So you have the plan and then a different arrow. And what is the different arrow? What does it represent? Please put it into chat so I can see your answers. What does that represent? What is this instead of the plan? I love this. Someone put Inshallah. This is that's absolutely perfect. So let me just say that this is reality. We have the plan and we have the reality. Now, in between the plan and the reality is a space. In this space, when we have a plan and when the reality is different, what do we experience in this place? What do we normally experience? Who would like to tell me? What do you experience in this place? This place here. So just put the answers into chat. Any answer? What do you experience in the gap between your plan and the reality? What God decides. Confusion is the first answer I have. We have stress, panic. So we have a few different experiences in here. Normally, this is a place of stress. Frustration, yes. So I'm an improviser, and what I find, what I look for in this place is something different. Disappointment, absolutely, absolutely disappointment. What I look for is fun. Is fun and opportunity. So we're going to spend some time in this gap right now. I'm going to show you a technique, because when you find yourself in that gap, you have a choice. You have a choice to contract, to be resentful, to be fearful, to try to make reality conform to your plan. I planned to be in Istanbul for this summit. I'm sure many of you had plans this year. And we make plans in a moment-to-moment basis, and we make long-term plans. When the plan and the reality aren't in alignment, we have the possibility to find something new in this space. And I'm going to give you a technique that is used by improvisers and that you can use after this session to experience that gap differently. And many things can change for you in this. Believe me. So what we're going to do is I will shortly ask for someone to volunteer to be with me for a moment. It'll be a very short moment. I will just have a short conversation. And the conversation has a very, very clear structure. One of us is going to suggest something. One of us will say, let us, and something simple. let us go for a walk. The other person will reply, yes, and add to that. The first person will then go, ah, yes, and add to that. It's very crucial to say yes and at the beginning of each sentence after the first one. This is the structure. So one person says, let us do this. The next person says yes and adds to this. Then the first person says yes and adds to that, and so on. So what happens is you both expand and work together in that gap. So I'm going to ask, and no one expected this because I did not prepare them, I'm going to ask one of the team to join me in this gap just for a moment so we can demonstrate this. Who would like to join me? Oh, who do we have? That was very quick.
Yes, I'm here.
Alpa, of course it was you that volunteered. This is wonderful. So, my friend, one of us will say, let us do something. The other person will say yes and add, yes and add. We'll just do a short one so people can see. Would you like to go first or shall I?
Yes. Let us have some fun.
Yes, and let's make sure there are at least 50 people with us.
Yes, and let's engage them in a way that they will never forget.
Yes, and we can begin with a conga line where we all dance in a line together.
Yes, and we should never forget jumping as we dance.
Yes, we must jump, dance, and also roll. We must all roll together.
Yes, and we should scream like 6-year-olds.
Yes, and make sure we do this in a public place.
Yes, and we get other people join us and become 200.
Alpert, that is a perfect demonstration. Thank you so much. So, in a moment, if you are in the audience, you will be finding yourself in a breakout room with another person. So there will be two of you, exactly the same as Alpa and myself. When you go into that room, one of you says, let us, and then yes and, yes and, yes and, yes and. And as you can see, it very quickly goes somewhere unexpected. We are going to be in that breakout room for 4 minutes, and 4 minutes goes quickly when you are having fun. So please enjoy yourself in the breakout room.
Okay, John, we are on the platform. We have a chat screen. I suggest to do the exercise on the chat screen with 200 people, with 1,000 people, rather than the breakout room, because the breakout room, we have a networking room, which we can all go. Actually, what I will invite is, please go to a networking session room. Please go to the networking session room. Networking odasına gidin. Ve orada bir kişiyle buluşup 3 dakika bunu yapın. We will invite them to go to the networking session room.
Okay.
And they will have 3 minutes there, which we already used 1 minute. So please go to networking room and do that.
Okay.
That's a great exercise, John. We love it. So we are going to, they will be gone for a while in the networking session, but I think it will be great. So let's, as we wait, I think I just want to say to you that this is great to use this time with this exercise, and maybe instead of the Q&A.
Okay, just exercises. That's perfect.
Yes,
I
think
don't
so.
like Q&A. Also, there are no messages showing up in chat from the audience. Is that?
Yes.
Is everything?
What I will do is I will give you another link. Go to just do the following. Go to this link, and when it opens in the tab, turn off the sound on the new tab. That is the broadcasting, the summit platform. and you will see all the messages on that one. So what you can do, you can watch that tab, but keep the sound from this tab. That's the best way to do that. That's how you can manage it. So
Okay, let me just make sure this comes up. Okay, so it says fireside chat. We have yes and here. I don't see where to turn off the
go to
sound.
main stage. Go to main stage.
Stage. Okay, I'm in fireside chat right now.
Okay, just wait for the main stage. Yeah. No, go to main stage. Yes, that's the fireside chat. That is the session name is changed. So that's that's it. I think you should
Okay.
be seeing yourself. And to turn it off, there is a on the left side. There is a sound icon, and just turn it off. I think you're not hearing it.
I'm not. I have no sound from there. No, it's fine.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, and then so the comments will turn up here. It will show up here. So I'll go back and forth. So when people come back, I'll ask for comments about how it was. Thank you for volunteering, Alpa. That was great.
No, my pleasure.
Yeah. Have you done that before?
No.
Oh man, you seem like a professional.
I love playing. I have 2 kids.
Oh man, kids love this. You try this with your kids.
Yes, absolutely. I think yes, and okay, and I think I think we can go on because we are back to it's already 3 minutes.
Yeah, it is already 3 minutes, so people are coming back.
Yes, I think they are back. Yes, and we have yeah, I think we can. Yes, I think they are back.
Fantastic. So, welcome back. If you've come back from the breakout room and you have experienced yes and, would you please put into the chat how that was for you? How was it to experience yes and for you? So if you put that into chat in a moment, I can read it.
Yes, there's a just few well, some 10 seconds delay, but it is
okay.
Yes, well, but yeah, you will see that. I think they are coming back.
Okay. So nothing in chat so far.
Okay, I think
oh wow, we have. It was like a roller coaster. Yes, it's like a fast ride. Alpa said. I asked Alpa if he had done this before, and he said no, but he loves to play and he has kids. If you have children, I really suggest you play this game with them because it invites their creativity and it invites that openness. And even
we have some feedback.
Oh, fantastic!
Great ideas.
Oh yes, I see. Asley says full of options and forget about the disappointment. Funny with lots of ideas. Zelda said I had a monologue and yes and myself. Saying yes and to yourself is really powerful. Wonderful feedback. Thank you. So we're going to change things just slightly now. And this is something that's useful when you are again in this space. The yes and is an invitation to openness, as you have found out. It's like a roller coaster. It's a ride. You become playful. There's more options than ever before. What we're going to do now is we're going to use the same structure, but we're going to change one word. We're only going to change one word. But what we're going to do is we are going to start off with let us. And the reply will be yes, but. Yes,
okay.
But.
Can I make a suggestion in this case?
Say again?
Can I make a suggestion? Just to
sure.
Time. My suggestion is to make it like not a duo exercise, but make it a group exercise. You know, one of us starts on the chat screen, and the rest of us put the yes but on the
Oh,
chat.
Alpa, I'm an improviser, so legally, whatever you suggest, I must say yes to it. So yes, that's a
Okay.
brilliant idea. So
Okay.
we are changing in the moment here. So Alpa has a wonderful suggestion. We're going to use the structure "let us" followed by "yes but." We're going to use the chat in order to do this. So I tell you what, I'm going to come up with an idea. So okay, so my idea, and everyone is going to say yes, but to my idea. So my idea is in 2021, let us make this conference 10 times bigger. So it's the summit is going to be 10 times bigger in 2021. And instead of yes and, I want to see everyone coming up with yes, but, yes, but, yes, but. So put it into chat. 10 times bigger in 2021. Yes, Asley. Yes, but is a mood killer. Oh, nice. Yes, but there is a pandemic, of course. How can we do this in a pandemic? Yes, but where? Love it. Yes, but there is still COVID. There was one there I just love. Zelda, you're a genius. Zelda is a creative genius because she said, yes, but why limit it to 10 times? So she has taken the yes, but and made it into a bigger yes, and. That is creativity in the gap. Yes, but what about distance problems? Yeah, but why not 20 times bigger? So this is very interesting. Yes, but only with people. Yes. Oh, so 10 times bigger, 25,000 people. Yes, but, yes, but, yes, but. Wow. Fantastic. I'm going to come back to the screen now because we only have a few minutes left, and I want to show you something that I've observed here. When there's a gap between the plan and the reality, which is what everyone has experienced this year, it is what people who attended this conference experienced today, and it is what I experienced 2 minutes ago when Alpa said, let's do this in chat instead. When there is a gap between the plan and the reality, we can contract and be safe and resentful, or we can expand, we can take risks, and we can connect with people. Something I would just love to mention is how many people said when we were with the yes but. Yes and is the accelerator. Like you hit the accelerator, you make the car go faster. Yes but is the brakes. And you need both when you drive. So when you're in a situation where it is yes and or yes but, if you know why you are saying yes and why you're saying yes but, it is powerful. If you say yes but automatically, it shuts everything down. And one thing that I thought was wonderful was several people, when I said 10 times bigger and I was waiting for you to tell me why not. Yes, but COVID. Yes, but distance. Yes, but economy. Many people said, yes, but why not even bigger? So there's this sense that we can take a very fine approach to the word yes and the concept of and the concept of but. We can be creative, we can be innovative, and we can find opportunity and enjoyment and laughter in the gap. So I would encourage you at the conference, next time you have a conversation with someone, as an experiment, when you're listening to someone, just say yes and to what they're saying and encourage them to open up more. When your team is brainstorming, say yes and, yes and, yes and. And notice the people around you. Have they got the habit of yes and, or have they got the habit of yes but? And sometimes it's unconscious, and we can encourage people, as Enrique said, to be open, flexible, creative, and innovative. Alpa, I am officially at my exact time. So
Yes, and I think this is a great time to finish and to thank you. And
It's
I want to invite my co-chair Didem also to the stage to thank you, and we will move on to our next speaker. Yes, and Didem.
Thank you, John. You shouldn't be surprised that I didn't come in. I didn't jump in, and Alper came because he is the one in
he
terms of
loves it.
improvisation. Yes, he loves it.
You were hiding. You were hiding in the back, Didem.
Yes,
I knew you did.
thank you, John. See you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Lovely. Bye.
Bye.
And now we will talk about agile culture. And Carolyn Tyler is with us. How to foster an agile culture. Curious about it.
Hello, great to see you all. I'm so pleased to be able to join you. And I've just been listening to John. So we're going to go into a somewhat different dimension now. We're going to go from the very personal to the really global and think about what sort of culture do you need to create an agile organization, and how do you actually live that? How do you make that happen? And my company's name is Walking the Talk. I wrote a book called Walking the Talk, which is about how you build a culture. And essentially what I talk to you about today is that it is the walking. It's what you do rather than what you say that makes that happen. So I wanted to start with a story, actually. And I've been working in this field for all my career. And as you can see by my lines on my face, that's been quite a long time. And when I was young and just starting out in this field, we had a client who was a miner. And they had mining sites in really, really remote locations. And I was in Australia, and they took us out to one of those mining sites that's like 5 hours from the nearest town. And we flew in this tiny plane, and we got out of the plane, and you open the door, and the whole thing is like an oven. It was so hot. And we went to this tiny little airport, and we rented a car, me and my colleague, 2 city girls, and we were off to drive to the mine site. And there was nothing around. It's like really in the middle of nowhere. And as we were about to start, this man knocked on the door, and he had the logo of our client. He knocked on our window of the car, and I opened the window, and he said, "Now you girls, you mind the ruse." Now, I'm almost certain most of you will not know what that means, because if you're not Australian, you won't know that a roo is a kangaroo. And what he was telling us is if you drive, it was late afternoon, if you drive in the outback in Australia in late afternoon, these kangaroos, they jump over the road in order to get the water, and they come over with their families, and they are big animals. And so before you know where you are hit by a kangaroo, and you are in big trouble. So what he was telling us was drive slowly, be safe, because otherwise you may hit a kangaroo. Sure enough, we drove, we found these kangaroos, amazing, amazing scenery. We got to the mine site, and I said to the mine manager, you know, there was this man at the airport who we didn't know who he was, and he just took the trouble to warn us about the kangaroos. And he said to me, and listen to this, he said to me, anyone, anywhere in the world, on any one of our mine sites, would have said the same thing. And what he was telling us was we are so confident in our culture, which is about safety. Their goal was safety, a culture of safety. And we have communicated that. We've got people understand it so well, and they know that a part of safety is about looking after other people, looking after the safety of other people. Now, we were there for a week, and then when I got back to Sydney, to my home, and a month later we saw in the paper that one of their key supervisors had been fired for driving, for speeding on the mine site. It was an open cut mine. And I rang up afterwards and I said, goodness, you lost Mike. He was a great operator. And he said, yes, and you know what? He's going to take us to court. And it was in the paper that they were going to get a court case for unfair dismissal. And he said that we'll probably lose the case, but we had to do it because it's more important that we send a signal to everyone all over the world that safety really matters than that we lose one good operator. And he broke the rules. He was speeding. So in that moment, what I learned was what culture is and what it takes to really create a common culture across, in his case, a global organization. And for them, they'd worked out that a safe site not only is safe and you know, therefore really important for well-being of employees, for reputation in the community, but also really matters because they worked out that safe locations were, I think it was 43% more productive than unsafe locations. So they'd made the link between the culture they wanted, the behaviors that involved, which was, you know, looking after other people, the principles behind it, which was it's not only your safety, it's everyone else's safety, what the rules were, and everybody across the whole world knew what that was. And that's what you get when you focus on a culture. You get really clear about what it is that you need, and you communicate, you get it across the whole organization. So that's what I want to show you today in 10 minutes that I've got here. Now I'm going to, I think, put up my slides at this point. I can't tell whether they're up, but I'm assuming that they are. So let me just check here and put this onto something that you'll be able to see full screen. What I want to show you there just for a moment now is this is the mine site. I just thought you had to see that. It's such a spectacular site. You get a sense about the remoteness. But what I'll spend you just a couple of minutes, and then I want to end on what can you do? What can you do as a leader? What can you do as an HR leader, those of you in HR? But I want to start by saying that this is what a culture is. This is the most useful definition of culture that we've found, that it is the patterns of behavior that are encouraged, discouraged and tolerated by people and systems over time. And the reason I love this is because it contains within it what you have to do. And what you have to do, of course, is encourage, discourage and tolerate. So in that story, the patterns of behavior that were all about safety. But for you, the patterns of behavior may be all about what it takes to be agile. What are the patterns of behavior that we're going to need around innovation, around customer centricity, around being willing to make mistakes, around being willing to be empowered and let people have a go and get it wrong and then change? Those are all patterns of behavior that then need to get encouraged and discouraged and not tolerated. And in that story, of course, the man who had gone speeding in his truck in the mine was a case where they had to not tolerate. So that's the first idea that I want to put up. Now, the second idea that I want to put up is that culture is created by the unspoken messages that people receive about what is really valued, not by what you say, but by what you do. And there's a great Ralph Waldo Emerson quote, which is, "Your actions speak so loudly that I can't hear what you're saying." And in culture, you know, I've worked with hundreds of organizations going through their culture over my career, and, you know, hundreds of thousands of leaders actually, and it's always what you do. And there are three things that you do. It's what the behaviors are, how other people see you behave, how they see the leadership team, how they see their colleagues, the behaviors. Are they actually role modeling these behaviors? The second one are the symbols. What are the decisions that we're making that are symbolic of what we really value? And some examples of symbols are anywhere where you've got a limited resource and you have to make a choice. So for example, how you spend time, very symbolic about what is really valued. How you spend money, highly symbolic about what is valued. Who you promote, even more symbolic. And in fact, I would go so far to say that the biggest area where leaders who are trying to change culture fall down is that their succession planning, their whole talent management process doesn't line up to the message they're sending about culture. And so they say, you know, we value innovation, we value empowerment or whatever, and then they continue to promote leaders, for example, who are highly controlling. And as soon as you do that, all your communication efforts, all the stuff you've been, you know, the road shows and the town halls, etc., are completely lost. Because what people go is, yeah, but they imported Sarah last week and she is a controller. So they don't really mean it. So symbols are really important. And the third one are the systems, the performance management system, the talent management system, the reward system, the budgeting process, the capital allocation process. All the processes of the organizations are the mechanisms that also shape behavior. So somewhere you've got to line up those three. Now, let me show you one more, and then I want to talk about what your role is. So just very briefly, because in this time I can't really go through it, but we've got a report. We did a big piece of analysis on what does it take, what kind of culture do you need to pull off agile, becoming an agile organization. And if you send me a link in or something, I can send you give you the details on the report. But there were 4 that we came out with, and these will be familiar, I'm sure, to many of you. But customer centricity, self-direction, experimentation, and networks. But if you think about just one of those, and one of the things I would highly recommend that you do is don't try and do everything at once. So if you think about that story I told about safety, just creating experimentation, for example, as a pattern of behavior in your organization, just that one, is a massive undertaking. It requires learning how to accept failure. It requires being willing to take risk. It requires people speaking up. All of things which, just speaking up as a cultural norm can take, a couple of years of intense effort of really focusing on it. So strong recommendation is pick one thing. And then if you pick one thing and focus on that for a while, let me spend my last few minutes now talking to you about what your role is. And if you can take 1 or 2 things away from this and put them in place for you, you start to make a contribution. So I heard that some of you are HR, many of you are HR professionals, but not all of you. So let me broaden it a little bit, but focus also particularly on HR. So imagine if you have in the middle there where it says culture to support business imperatives. Let's say that there is a clarity in your organization that agility or customer centricity or whatever culture you've decided is the most important element, that you've made the link between that and business imperatives. So I was working with an organization recently where the business imperative was to prioritize their product portfolio so that they had many fewer products, and then really focus on those in order to get growth. That was the business strategy. And so they had decided that prioritization, simplicity, the willingness to say no, was the critical cultural goal that they had. So that was the culture imperative that supported the business imperative. You might be going for agility, and you might say the absolute critical goal is to create empowerment, people, self-managed teams, people prepared to do things on their own, to take initiative without being told what to do, and leaders prepared to let them do that and let go of control. So that might be your goal. So let's say you've got that clear. Now let's have a look at the 3 things that you as an HR leader can do, or any one of your leaders can do. First one is role modeling. Now, of course, that in itself is a huge task. But when I work, particularly when we work with HR people, actually, there's a lot of talk about what the organization has to do, what the executive team have to do, but often not so much talk about, are we role modeling this? If people looked at us, would they say, yes, this person is absolutely somebody I would follow down this path because they're role modeling it. And when I say that, you often have 5-point scales, and you give people feedback, 360-degree feedback or whatever. You really need to be scoring a 5 to be role modeling. Because if I look at you and say, does this person encourage me to make my own decisions and to take the initiative? And if my answer is yes, a 5 you do, then that tells to me that, I'm in admiration of the way you work. I know that you are a role model to this. If I say 4, I'm kind of being polite. I'm going, yeah, you do it sometimes you don't. But 5s are what we get our people to go, okay, when we're working with leaders, we go, you need to be at least at a 4.5 average on a 5-point scale, because that means you need some people who are going, we know you role model. So that's the first piece. The second piece, and this is the piece that many leaders are not so good at, is, remember my definition of culture was what is encouraged, discouraged, and not tolerated. So even if you're role modeling, the bigger role that a leader has, and when we coach leadership teams, we work with them on how do you, one, do you know what good behavior looks like? Now, if you're in HR, helping leaders to know what good behavior looks like is itself a huge task, because most leaders don't know that. And when I work with leaders in a room, and I say, okay, name 5 people who you think are absolutely role models of the culture you're trying to create. Get them to write down the names, and they all come up with different names. I'm going, okay, you guys don't have a clue yet, because you don't yet have a picture of what great looks like. So that's one of the roles of HR, is to help leaders get that. You have to know what it is you're looking for. Once you know it, then you can encourage it and discourage it, and then over time not tolerate it. And that was what that mining company had done. They were not tolerating unsafe behavior. They had a saying which was, we never walk past an unsafe practice. Now you could say it's very easy to tell what's safe and not safe. Now it is. But this was 25 years ago. 25 years ago, people were not as clear what safety was. Today, we're not as clear about what agility is and what an agile culture is. But your job is to help your organization get clear, what are the behaviors, what does good look like? And then if you're a leader, and if you're in HR, of course, you have the ability to help leaders to encourage, both day to day, but also through all the remuneration, promotion, and so on, but also to not tolerate. And that takes me on to the third one, the IT dimension, which is to align the symbols and systems that you control. So in HR, we're talking about the HR systems. If you're in finance, we're talking about the planning process, the budgeting process. How can you align those so that they are shaping the culture that you want? That means, how do you reward the behaviors you want? One, you reward behavior, and 2, that you reward behaviors you want. Second, if you're in talent management, it means, how do you promote? Who do you promote? What's the succession process? How is that linked to the culture you want? Thirdly, if you're in recruitment, how do you recruit for the culture you want? And fourthly, if you're associated with exiting people, how do you have the courage to move people out, to measure and then move people out if they don't fit the culture? So I, we, it, 3 dimensions, really practical, 3 things that you can take away and do right now. And the one in the center, which is to get clear about what the behaviors are that will support the culture that you need to create your business imperative. So with that, I'm going to stop. Thank you so much. It's been great to speak to you all, and I hope that with that, I have been able to give you some insight into why culture and what it is you have to do. Have a great conference, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Carolyn. I mean, that was the recipe of the, I think, the culture and leadership role also for HR. Thank you very much for participating.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, wonderful. Didem.
Yes.
I think I have some good news for you.
Really? I'm
Hold on.
curious about it.
Yes, I think we had this unexpected internet outage this morning, which affected our first 2 sessions. So 2 good news.
Great.
Well, Dorothy will be with us whole day as hosting the day.
This is great.
And Itai will do second take of his session tomorrow with us.
Oh, great! Because I mean, for our participants, I was really aiming them to hear and listen and see Itai. So there were some distractions. I'm very happy on behalf of our participants that we will have Itai again.
Yes, they were also very happy, and I think we are very, very excited. So what
End
is?
of the day.
Yeah. Go on, please.
Yeah, it's end of the day, and when I reflect the day, I see that the agility is at the heart of the, as I said, the fast response, and the resilience, the caring people, what Dorothy brought to us, and improvisation, which being in the moment and having the playfulness in the moment with John. So all the speakers told us some recipes of the here and now and being self and present in the next, let's say, coming days. So I'm grateful to hear all these, and I took many, let's say, insights and ideas for the next.
You know what I'm most grateful for? I'm actually grateful for the life that has given us the opportunity to practice all these skills: resilience, improbability, agility, adaptation, changing the game, all at the moment. I think it's a little bit advanced level of gaming for me, but I think I'm a good player and
Yes,
you're a great player. But the best players, who are the best players? Our audience. I'm so fascinated how you could hold the space with us.
yes,
Like holding this space with 1,200 people together with you was amazing. So that's the power I got and encouragement we got from you to bring Itai and Dorothy back to you tomorrow.
great. So I'm curious about tomorrow, and I think also we should share our next conference, the dates and the themes, because I mean each year we are starting to plan and execute even during the conference, the next conference theme and content. So we are happy and excited to say that our next conference, the 26th of the Global HR Summit, will be in May, 25th and 28th of May. And we have a great team. We are very excited about the conference, the next conference theme. Would you like to say something about it?
What a transformative format. That's the next year's conference theme, but let's see it.
Let's see it. We have
Yes, amazing. WTF, way to
great
future.
future. Yes, and in Turkish, yeni yaraç, which is give space for the new.
Yes, I think that will be a novel conference that we will try novel things, new things, talk about new topics.
Yes. So thank you, Alper, for co-chairing today with me, and I would like to thank to our participants and all our amazing speakers. Thank you so much, and I'm excited about tomorrow. So
Yes, and tomorrow we will start at the same time, 3:30 Istanbul time, 1:30 European time, and wherever you are, just find your time with us, and we will look forward to welcoming you with another roster of wonderful speakers, and with the learning from today, and with the bonus speakers from today with Dorothy and Itai, and look forward to see you tomorrow.
see you. Bye.
Thank you for being with us. Thank you, Didam.